Hello, Nigel here. I couldn't help noticing that you're still awake. Now, I'm an owl. I'm supposed to be up at night, but you need your sleep. So if it's your allergy symptoms that are keeping you up, here's a word to the wise. Try Xyzal. You see, Xyzal works fast to relieve sneezing, runny nose, itchy watery eyes, and itchy nose and throat. And it keeps going strong for 24 hours, so you can get your sleep and wake up refreshed and ready for a productive day ahead. Be wise, all. Take Xyzal at night. Use as directed. Starts working in 45 minutes.
Subtle results, still you, but with fewer lines. Botox Cosmetic, out of botulinum toxin A, is a prescription medicine used to temporarily make moderate to severe frown lines, crow's feet, and forehead lines look better in adults.
Effects of Botox Cosmetic may spread hours to weeks after injection, causing serious symptoms. Alert your doctor right away as difficulty swallowing, speaking, breathing, eye problems, or muscle weakness may be a sign of a life-threatening condition. Patients with these conditions before injection are at highest risk. Don't receive Botox Cosmetic if you have a skin infection. Side effects may include allergic reactions, injection site pain, headache, eyebrow and eyelid drooping, and eyelid swelling. Allergic reactions can include rash, welts, asthma symptoms, and dizziness. Tell your doctor about medical history, muscle or nerve conditions including ALS or Lou Gehrig's disease, myasthenia gravis, or Lambert-Eaton syndrome, and medications, including botulinum toxins, as these may increase the risk of serious side effects. For full safety information, visit BotoxCosmetic.com or call 877-351-0300.
See for yourself at BotoxCosmetic.com.
Welcome back, True Crime Army. I am your host, Margot, and this is Military Murder, a show where I focus on crimes committed by military members and veterans. But don't worry, you don't have to know anything about the military to listen, I promise. You, my friend, just have to be a true crime enthusiast, and if that's you, welcome home. Today, as we get ready to close out the month of May, a month dedicated to mothers, I'm going to tell you a very sad story. And while I've told this story before on a TikTok and Instagram video a few years ago, I didn't realize the extent of what the child in today's story experienced at the hands of her mother. A woman who by all accounts had everything going for her. She graduated valedictorian from school, she was the homecoming queen, and she raced up the Navy ranks. Yet here I am telling you a tragic story. Warning, today's case involves child neglect and descriptions that might be too much to handle. Please listen with care. Join me today as I tell you the tragic story of 5-year-old Taylor Rose. Now, let's dig in.
Military murder is an independent project and is not endorsed by the Department of Defense or any military component. The views expressed are those of the host. The content of this podcast is not meant to be legal or medical advice. Warning, this episode contains graphic details of murder and is not suitable for young listeners. Listener discretion is advised.
Before I begin today, shout out to Myrtle for researching and writing today's episode. And also, shout out to her son Shane for recommending that I cover this case on the podcast. At around 7 a.m. on the morning of November 6, 2019, a call came into the Jacksonville, Florida 911 dispatch center. The caller was 27-year-old Petty Officer First Class Brianna Williams.
What's going on?
I do not know where my daughter is.
Did she run away?
No,
Where was she last seen?
she was here with me.
What was she wearing?
A purple shirt and like pink pajamas, like a t-shirt. She was
The pants were pink?
Say again?
Okay, just stay on the line with me. Do you know where she could have gone?
No.
Have you checked?
Like she just came home. I just picked her up on Halloween night. She was with my mom in Alabama.
Okay, have you checked the house?
Yes.
Okay, did she have a favorite hiding spot in the house? Like under
No.
the bed?
I checked on her there.
Okay, let's check again. Go to her bedroom. Let's check her closet. Nobody else in the house has seen her?
No, it's just me and her.
All right, are you in her room? Okay, check under her bed again.
At 7:11 a.m., the first of many police officers arrived to find Brianna dressed in her Navy camouflage uniform standing in the driveway. And that officer was wearing a police cam. So here is some audio from that footage.
You call, ma'am? All right. Okay, is this your address here? Okay, hey, tell us what happened.
I'm looking up this morning. It started getting me from work. She wasn't in her room.
Okay. Have you had any problems with anybody? Okay. Anything unusual? Okay. Do you live by yourself?
He's there.
Okay. The father of the child?
No.
He's not in her life?
Search
your house. Okay. I'm sorry. Father of the child is not.
He's in Alabama.
He's here?
Alabama?
He's in Alabama. Okay. So any problems with anyone else as far as any custody dispute between you and him? No? Okay. All right. Has she done this before as far as anything like try to leave or get out or mess with locks or anything like that? Okay. Show me which door was locked real quick. Or unlocked. Was it the back door? Okay.
You recently moved in or?
Yes.
Okay. When did you move in?
Like, I started moving stuff. Well, I signed a lease back in June, but the place kept getting broken. So I didn't want to move there, but the guy was like leaving it vacant. He was putting in at risk.
Okay. When did you actually move in? In June or?
No, like a week ago, a few days ago.
Okay. Today's Wednesday.
Okay.
Okay. Did you move in, let's say, over the weekend?
Yes.
All right.
After this conversation, the police officers entered the house and began their search. The entire time that Brianna was in front of the police officer, she was being recorded on his body cam. If you watch the video, which is available on YouTube, she looks and sounds like she's sobbing. But when you look at it, there are no tears, not even one drop. She's also fully dressed in her utility uniform right down to her cap. I mean, you're supposed to have your cover on when you're outdoors, but if your 5-year-old child is missing, are you really going to take the time to make sure your uniform is squared away? I don't know, maybe, but it just seems a little odd when we find out exactly what happened in this case. So let's take a minute to recap. Brianna Shante Williams called 911 at 7 a.m. on the morning of November 6, 2019 to report that her daughter, Taylor Rose Williams, was missing. Brianna told the police that the last time she saw Taylor was the night before at around midnight when Taylor went to bed. Brianna explained her morning. She got up, she showered, and got into her uniform, looking all sharp with her hair on point. And when she went to wake Taylor up, Taylor wasn't in her room. And that's when she called 911. Police arrived on scene at 7:11 a.m. and began their search for little Taylor. Initially, Taylor was listed as a missing person, but after 9 a.m., it morphed into a formal Florida Department of Law Enforcement missing child alert, and by 11:30 a.m., a statewide Amber Alert was issued. Brianna provided her consent for the police to search both the house and her car, as well as permission for them to go to her old apartment to conduct a search there as well. Brianna told responding officers that she had moved into her house the weekend prior, which would have been like November 2nd or the 3rd. And according to her very own statement caught on body cam, Brianna said that Taylor had been with her mom in Tuscaloosa, Alabama for the month of October. Brianna said she picked Taylor back up on the night of Halloween, October 31st, and brought her back with her to Florida, Jacksonville to be exact. As the police dug in, Brianna told them that she had been on leave for a week and was due back to work that very morning, Wednesday, November 6th. Then Brianna provided a little more detail about what transpired since the last time she laid eyes on her daughter. Brianna continued to say that Taylor went to bed at around midnight, but then she added something else. According to Brianna, she was woken up sometime in the middle of the night by a strange noise. Brianna said she armed herself and looked around the house, but didn't see anything, and she checked that all the doors were locked. One room she didn't check, however, was Taylor's room. She said she never went in there, not even after hearing that strange noise. Not even the strange noise that was strange enough for her to wake up and arm herself and then check the locks on the door. I can't speak for every mother, but I think most mothers will check on their kids if they hear something out of the ordinary, and especially if they're concerned enough to check the rest of the house. But listen, that's just me. Brianna went back to bed and woke up at 6 a.m. to start her day. At 6:50, she went into Taylor's room, and that's when Brianna realized that Taylor was missing. 10 minutes later, she dialed 911. 10 minutes after that, she was standing in her driveway, fully dressed in her uniform, waiting for the cops. Presumably, she got ready before she went to check on Taylor. That's when she told the responding officer that Taylor had been with her mother for the month of October and that she had just picked Taylor up a week prior on Halloween. Brianna also reported that over the weekend of November 2nd and 3rd, she placed an ad on Craigslist asking for help moving from her old apartment into her new apartment. 2 people answered the ad on Sunday the 3rd to help Brianna move across town. So now investigators had a couple things to look into, because in almost every facet of life, you can trust the information you get, but you better verify it, particularly during police investigations. Detectives first started by calling Brianna's mother to ask her about Taylor. They wanted to say, like, hey, what happened the month of October when Taylor was with you? But guess what? Brianna's mom was like, what? Taylor wasn't with me. What are you talking about? I haven't seen her since January. I haven't seen her for 11 months. Just to cover all angles, the police also called Taylor's paternal grandmother, but she hadn't seen Taylor for about 2 years. So now the police were intrigued. So they investigated Brianna's claim that she hired 2 people off of Craigslist to help her move. They verified that she did indeed place an ad on Craigslist. They were able to track down 2 people who answered the ad on the 3rd. The pair had contacted Brianna and arranged to meet her at her old apartment. The pair told the police that they arrived at Brianna's old apartment at around 4 p.m. on November 3rd, and one of them told detectives that he could hear water running in the bathroom. I don't know if they asked about it or if Brianna just volunteered the following information, but Brianna told these 2 people who were there to help her that her daughter was in the bathroom taking a bath. The hired helpers worked for about an hour in the apartment, then left to follow Brianna to her new rental house. As reported by them to the police, they never saw anyone else in the apartment besides Brianna. There were no adults, and there definitely were no children, and definitely no child ever emerged from the bathroom. They never saw any children or any other adults, even at the new address. So let's get back to the search for Taylor. The police conducted a thorough search of Brianna's current residence where she dialed 911 from. But something felt off. Sure, there was a child's bedroom with a toddler bed and a pair of slippers next to the bed, but it felt, staged, like it hadn't been lived in. They interviewed several neighbors who reported that they had never seen a small child around since Brianna moved in. As police thought about it, something just wasn't adding up. At some point, Brianna was taken to the police station so they could talk to her and find out more information about her missing child. Initially, she was left alone in the interview room and she placed her cover on the table, then sat in the chair with her chin on her fist. It took about 45 minutes for detectives to get in the room with her while she waited. And while she was there, she laid her head down on her arms and closed her eyes. It appeared as though she was taking a nap. When the detectives entered, they sat across from Brianna, who was still in her uniform, and they gently asked her questions about her daughter, Taylor. They asked her about her move to her new house and claims of hiring a babysitter via Craigslist. And they also asked her about her work at Naval Air Station Jacksonville. After nearly an hour of this, the investigators started asking about the discrepancies in her story, specifically that her very own mother denied seeing Taylor in the month of October. They said, "Your mom hasn't seen Taylor since January." Brianna responded to these questions by saying, "I'm over this. My mama would not say that. I just want my baby home. This has gone too far." The detectives fired back at her, "So you don't want to answer any questions as to the whereabouts of your daughter?" Brianna answered, "I don't know where she is. I have told you everything I know."
I'm done with this. I don't want to talk about this. Yes, I am done because you're lying to me now. So
how am I lying to you? I'm not lying to you.
You just said that my mom. I literally picked my mom. I mean, not my mom.
I'm just telling you what my partner said. And I'd like to explain to you, but
I don't know where to get it from because I literally went down there.
Do you want to talk
Halloween night?
Do you want to talk to the detectives I spoke with her and then get that? Find out what the information they gave?
I'm done with this because I don't know where this is going, but no. Like, it's the second time this has happened. Like, some other lady was, like, saying stuff that I didn't even say. Like, she was twisting my words. Like, no.
Brianna stayed in the interview room for the next 10 hours. Periodically, detectives would pop in and ask if she needed anything like food or something to drink or if she needed to go to the restroom. But Brianna just sat there. On camera, she literally fell asleep more than once, leaning on the wall next to the chair or laying her head on the table. She took her hair down, then redid it, all while just sitting in silence in this room. Back at the house, the police were canvassing the neighborhood and talking to neighbors in hopes that someone could provide a lead on where little Taylor might have gone. More than one neighbor stated that they had never seen a little girl at Brianna's new house. Police looked through her car, a black 2017 Honda Accord that was backed into the carport by the side of the house. The car was a hot mess. Toys, clothing, and other clutter littered the interior, and there was a car seat in the back as well. And listen, as a mom of 3, I know my car is always a hot mess. But police noticed that there was some red dirt inside the car, which appeared odd to them because that's not something you see in Florida, this specific red dirt. When the police opened the trunk, it was in a much different condition compared to the interior of the car. The trunk was empty, and there was not one thing in it. And guess what? It smelled like cleaning materials. The trunk was lined with a rubber mat that was squeaky clean, way different than the interior of the car. With this interesting discovery, they loaded the car up on a tow truck and took it to the police station where they could go through it with a fine-tooth comb. The police also went to Brianna's old apartment to see if there were any clues as to where Taylor might be. It was a whopping 16 miles from the new rental house, so they didn't think that Taylor could have gotten back there by herself, but they wanted to check some things out. Brianna had signed the new lease for the new house in June. Remember, she moved in November. So that means that she had been paying rent on 2 places for months. Brianna was not yet clear of her lease from her old apartment, and when police arrived at Brianna's old apartment, they were met with a strong smell of feces and urine. Brianna confirmed that she didn't have any pets, so the police assumed the smell was from human excrement. Inside a bedroom closet, they found the carpet inside was stained with both feces and urine. They found clothing, including underwear belonging to a young child, that were stained with feces. Inside a bedroom closet, they located cleaning supplies, including urine remover, although it didn't seem to have been used on any of the stains that they saw. Near the front door, there was a large stain that investigators did not think was feces or urine. They thought it looked a lot like blood and needed to have a closer look, so they cut it out and brought it back to the station. Swabs were taken from the walls where they believed that they also saw blood. Police seized the dumpster behind the apartment and took it to an open location where it was dumped and spread out. This allowed investigators to go through bags of trash and hopefully find a clue to Taylor's whereabouts. They found several things that were of concern and disgust. In some of the bags of trash, they located cards and school papers with Taylor's name on them. They also discovered a stuffed bear that said "Happy Birthday, Taylor" on it, and several pairs of girls' clothing that were soiled and bound together with dried feces. They also located discarded sex toys. Crime scene technicians descended on everything that had to do with this Taylor case: the old apartment, the new apartment, and even the car. As part of their testing, a cadaver dog was brought in. The dog alerted to the scent of human decomposition on the trunk of the car where it had been recently cleaned. It also alerted on some interior compartments, and the dog alerted on the piece of carpet taken from the apartment. DNA swabs were also taken, but as we all know, this isn't law and order. Those results wouldn't be back for several months. At this point, pretty early on in this investigation, police did not believe that Taylor walked away on her own. They really needed Brianna's help, but she wasn't willing to give anything else. After confronting Brianna with her inconsistent stories, Brianna's cooperation with the police, which had been tenuous at best, ended. However, they didn't have enough to name Brianna as an official suspect, and she was free to go for now. She was picked up by a chief petty officer in her command and set up in the barracks on base since her house and apartment were now crime scenes. By Thursday, November 7th, 2019, which is only the next day, the search for Taylor was expanding. Search teams were seen wading through waterways with long poles that they used to probe the water. Hundreds of uniformed police and volunteers were conducting extensive neighborhood canvasses. Volunteers were seen handing out missing persons flyer. One volunteer was Jacksonville City Councilman Reggie Gaffney. He told the Florida Times-Union, "It's a very unfortunate situation. As a leader, I want to ask the community to pray. If you see anything suspicious, please let somebody know." Taylor's godmother took to Facebook pleading for any leads. She wrote, "Sick ain't the word. I have about 50 knots in my stomach right now. Everybody knows when I had her, she literally went everywhere with me, even work some days. Just bring my goddaughter home." A neighbor near the new house Brianna had called 911 from told the Florida Times-Union that she was so worried about Taylor that she couldn't even sleep on Wednesday night. She got up and walked to the neighborhood hoping to spot a clue, but especially hoping to find Taylor. She told the paper she was hopeful. Quote, "In a way I am. I really am, because something is not right. I hope, I pray. I said yesterday, Lord, if you don't answer another prayer, let this baby come home," end quote. Which honestly breaks my heart that strangers care so much about this little girl, yet her mother was refusing to cooperate with police. After interviewing neighbors, investigators learned that no one had seen Taylor for weeks. In fact, it had been months since the 5-year-old was seen by anyone. And a former neighbor from the original apartment complex had some shocking information for police. The neighbor reported that on April 17th, 2019, he saw Taylor wearing pink and purple pajamas and holding a little dolly while wandering around the apartment complex where Brianna and Taylor used to live. Taylor told the man that she was, quote, "looking for my mama," end quote. The man said he walked the little girl back to her apartment where he found the front door unlocked. As he peeked inside through the door, he saw that it was full of stacked boxes and bags of trash. The man left Taylor inside and told her to lock the door behind her. Now, we're not going to blast this person for leaving a 5-year-old alone in an apartment full of garbage because he's just a stranger. Again, it's just part of the investigation. This neighbor said that he was used to seeing Taylor with Brianna and noticed that Brianna's car was gone. But even though we're not going to blast him, if this ever happens to us, let's make sure we call the police or Child Protective Services or literally anyone if you ever find a child wandering outside on their own and you know that they've been left home alone, especially in a filthy house. The man told the police that he could see the little girl through the sliding glass window, looking outside at least 3 times a week during the week. Little Taylor was always dressed in the pink and purple pajamas that she was reported missing in, and she was always holding the same doll. The interesting thing is that the pink and purple pajamas are the same ones that Brianna said that Taylor was wearing when she claimed that Taylor disappeared on November 6. The neighbor reported that he saw little Taylor outside 2 more times after the initial incident and would take Taylor back to Brianna's apartment every single time. He reported that he stopped seeing Taylor around May 15th and that he even asked Brianna where Taylor was. She told him that Taylor was with her parents in Alabama. Police and the residents of Jacksonville were searching and looking for any clues into where Taylor may have gone. At one point on Friday, November 8th, Action News Jax released an article outlining the eerie similarities between Taylor's disappearance and the disappearance of another 5-year-old child that happened in the same area 10 years earlier. That was the story of 5-year-old Haley Cummings. In 2019, Haley went missing. She was also last seen wearing a pink shirt. Eventually, they realized that there was no link between the 2 cases. It was just very spooky for people to see the similarities between the 2 mysteries. And if you're wondering about Haley Cummings' case, as of February of 2024, Haley Cummings has not been found and no one has been charged in her disappearance. However, her parents were both incarcerated on drug charges the year following her disappearance. Today's episode is sponsored by Acorns, and April is Financial Literacy Month, an entire month dedicated to taking control of your money. Because honestly, no one really taught me how to manage money growing up. I didn't learn about investing until I was well into adulthood. But what I love about Acorns is that it makes it easy to start saving and investing for your future in just 5 minutes. I know, April is an entire month, but you don't need an entire month to learn. You don't need to be an expert. Acorns recommends a diversified portfolio that matches you and your goals. You can start with just your spare change, and you don't need a lot of time. Setup takes just 5 minutes because I know that your time is precious. And if financial wellness has ever felt out of reach, Acorns makes it simple, giving your money a chance to grow without the overwhelm. Personally, using Acorns gave me the confidence to stop putting it off and just start. And that peace of mind is completely worth it. Sign up now and join over 14 million all-time customers who've already saved and invested over $25 billion with a B dollars with Acorns. Head to acorns.com/militarymama or download the Acorns app to get started today. Paid non-client endorsement. Compensation provides incentive to positively promote Acorns. Tier 1 compensation provided. Investing involves risk. Acorns Advisors, LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor. View important disclosures at acorns.com/militarymama.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
Brianna Shante Williams didn't grow up in a super stable household. Her mother moved away when she was young, and Brianna lived with one of her aunts briefly. She moved out of this aunt's house after the aunt's boyfriend propositioned little Brianna. Brianna moved in with a different aunt and uncle who finished raising her. She spent her teen years in Linden, Alabama, where Brianna flourished. She was a member of the marching band and crowned homecoming queen. Brianna was an excellent student and graduated from Linden High School in 2010 at the top of her class as class valedictorian. When she graduated, she had plans to attend Alabama A&M University, and she wanted to major in mechanical engineering. At some point, Brianna said she was raped and had an abortion after learning she was pregnant. She reportedly fell into a deep depression after this. Brianna enlisted in the Navy in November of 2012 and went to Recruit Training Command in Great Lakes, Illinois. After boot camp, she attended technical training at the Information Warfare Training Center to become an information systems technician. She was assigned to Naval Air Station Pensacola in November of 2013. 2 years later, in March of 2015, Brianna moved to Norfolk, Virginia, and was assigned to the Carrier Airborne Early Warning Squadron 123. She stayed in Norfolk until April of 2018 when she moved to the Tactical Operations Center in Jacksonville, Florida. That very month, she was promoted to Information Systems Technician First Class, which is an E6. She was considered a bit of a fast burner, meaning she promoted pretty quickly. Google tells me that it takes on average in the Navy 12 years to reach the rank of E6, but Brianna did it in 6. During her time in the Navy, Brianna earned several awards and decorations. She earned both the Enlisted Aviation and Service Warfare Specialist badges, which are worn on the uniform of enlisted sailors. They're hard to earn and, from what I understand, highly coveted. She was also awarded the Navy Marine Corps Achievement Medal, the Good Conduct Medal, National Defense Service Medal, Inherent Resolve Campaign Medal, Global War on Terrorism Expeditionary Medal, and Sea Service Deployment Ribbon, among others. So let's go back to the investigation. Investigators were doing everything they could to find little Taylor. They were able to obtain Brianna's cell phone records that showed that Brianna had been in Alabama twice in the past 2 weeks leading up to Taylor's disappearance. And the police were able to narrow down exactly where Brianna drove after they pulled the GPS unit from her car and analyzed it. Specifically, they could see that Brianna's Accord made 3 round-trip drives to Demopolis, Alabama, which is about 15 miles from where Brianna grew up in Linden. One trip was on Halloween, October 31st. The second trip was on November 1st. And the last trip was on November 3rd. So what the hell was Brianna doing in Alabama? Well, the GPS showed that Brianna got pretty close to her mother's house, but she never actually drove to her mom's house, which totally blew her story about picking Taylor up from her mom's house on October 31st. What the GPS did show was that Brianna had driven off of the highway onto a dirt road that was near the cemetery where Brianna's grandmother was buried. Investigators were able to find surveillance video of Brianna getting gas along the route, but it was impossible to tell if Taylor was in the car at the time due to it being dark and also due to the fact that the windows were tinted. On November 4th, Brianna took her car to a car wash. Surveillance video showed that Taylor was definitely not in the car during this time. On Sunday, November 10th, just 4 days after reporting Taylor missing, Demopolis Police Department announced that it was assisting the FBI and Jacksonville agencies in the search for Taylor Rose. And on the following day, which was Veterans Day, investigators requested that the public come forward if anyone had seen Brianna or Taylor in the last few weeks. They were specifically asking for anyone to come forward if they had seen Brianna's vehicle between Jacksonville and Alabama in the last 2 weeks. They were like, if you have seen this vehicle driving from Jacksonville to Alabama, please contact us. And it was then that Brianna Williams was officially named as a person of interest in her own daughter's disappearance. And it was on Tuesday, November 12, 2019, that Demopolis police made a horrible discovery. They had focused their search on the dirt road that Brianna's GPS had indicated that she had driven down. They marked out the area in quadrants and sifted through dirt and debris looking for Taylor. They utilized another cadaver dog to search for the scent of human decomposition. And the search tragically paid off. The incomplete skeletal remains of a child were located partially buried in a shallow grave. Police had found a part of a skull, ribs, and long bones from the legs and arms. They estimated that the child died several weeks to several months before they were discovered. Investigators believe that the remaining bones were scattered due to animal activity and were not located at the burial site. Also found with the bones was a dirty and torn child's shirt that said BU, and B was spelled like a bumblebee, like BEE. Investigators also found a garbage bag wrapped in a shower curtain that appeared to contain the body when it was buried. Back in Jacksonville, Florida, a chief petty officer went to the barracks and picked Brianna up. The plan was to take her to the police station where she would be formally charged with child neglect and providing false information to law enforcement. The chief had a camera rolling in the car while they drove, and thankfully so, because what ends up happening in this car is really bizarre. As Brianna entered the car, she was sharp as ever, dressed in her green fatigues, complete with her cover, and she got into the passenger seat of the car, buckled up. Her eyes were super wide and kind of wild looking as she sat down. The chief started talking. He told her that he hated watching bad news and stuff like that on the news. He also said, I hate going back and forth with it where everyone's going. But now, they're saying that you're a person of interest now. At this point, Brianna just starts a-hing, like, mm-hmm. And while they're talking, it seems like Brianna is about to hurl. And then the chief starts saying, open the door, open the door, open the door. I wish I had some sort of napkins or something. Meanwhile, Brianna opens the door and she is hurling out the door. The chief feels really bad for Brianna and he hands her a bottle of water and tells her to take a drink. But Brianna then leans back out the door and continues to throw up. The chief continues to encourage Brianna to take a sip of water, but she tries and then dry heaves. She sits there for a second and leans her head back. She kind of makes like a choking noise, prompting the chief to ask if she's all right. Brianna nods and says something back that's incoherent. But then she dry heaves again and leans back in the seat, staring off into space. The chief continues to ask Brianna why maybe she would be a suspect in her own daughter's disappearance, and Brianna sinks back further into the seat and her breathing changes to a much slower pace, and she's breathing through her mouth. The chief says, hey, Brianna, do you need to go back to your room to lay down? And Brianna says no, and then she kind of clears her throat and mumbles again incoherently. The chief reaches over and shakes her shoulder and then tells her she has to say something. Brianna says, what? And her breathing then becomes labored and she continues to mumble some more. The chief then says, hey, do you need to go to medical? Williams, are you okay? Are you okay? At this point, Brianna's eyes are wide open, but she's no longer responding to the chief's verbal questions or even shaking her shoulders. The chief continues to ask if she needs to go to medical, and then suddenly Brianna passes out. The chief starts freaking out. He drives directly to medical, and during the drive, he feels her pulse and says out loud that she has a faint pulse. Brianna is completely out of it at this point. Her head is rolled back between the seat's headrest and the door jamb in the car. Then suddenly, she starts seizing. The chief, reasonably so, continues to freak out. Brianna continues to seize as the chief is driving to the base hospital. She's shaking and convulsing in the passenger seat as the chief tries to simultaneously keep her from flailing around as he drives. She finally stops seizing, but then is completely unresponsive. Her hat is pushed down over her face from the seizure, and she's completely limp. The chief is completely in shock as he continues to say, no, 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 no. Brianna's breathing is now erratic and raspy sounding. The drive is just minutes long, and her seizure lasts less than 30 seconds. However, if you've ever witnessed someone in a grand mal seizure, it's terrifying. As the chief pulls into the ER drop-off area, medics approach the car wearing blue scrubs and help the chief drag Brianna out of the passenger seat. Brianna is completely limp and dead weight as they pull her out and get her on a gurney. The medical team whisks her inside where she is listed in critical condition and placed on life support. They didn't know how to treat her because it was a mystery as to what happened, what caused her to vomit, pass out, and then go into a massive seizure. Brianna was then placed in a medically induced coma, and it was then that doctors were finally able to determine what happened to her. Apparently, Brianna had drank liquid Arm & Hammer laundry detergent. Once they knew what she had ingested, they were able to treat her, and Brianna's condition improved. A week later, Brianna had recovered enough to be released from the hospital and was transported directly to the Duval County Jail. She faced a judge for the first time where she was formally charged with 2 counts of child neglect and 1 count of lying to law enforcement officers. Her bail was set at $1.1 million.
This episode is brought to you by Netflix. 3 couples, 4 vacations, a lot to unpack. Watch The 4 Seasons, a new series starring comedy favorites Tina Fey, Steve Carell, Will Forte, Coleman Domingo, and more in a hilarious and heartfelt love letter to long-term relationships. Based on the original Alan Alda film. Watch The 4 Seasons, streaming now only on Netflix.
Morning decisions. A creamy mocha frappuccino drink? A sweet vanilla? Maybe a smooth caramel or that white chocolate mocha. Whichever you choose, delicious coffee awaits. Start your day with bottled Starbucks Frappuccino drinks. Pick up a bottle near you wherever you buy your groceries.
The following week, on November 25th, 2019, police confirmed that the remains found in Alabama were those of 5-year-old Taylor Rose Williams. They were unable to determine a cause of death, but DNA confirmed it was the missing little girl. Due to the decomposed and skeletonized condition of her body, the medical examiner was unable to determine exactly when Taylor died, but it was estimated to be several weeks to several months before her remains were located. While there were no outward signs of violence in what was left of Taylor's remains, the state of her teeth and bone lesions on the roof of her mouth indicated anemia or interruption of normal bone growth due to disease, trauma, and/or nutrition deficiency. The assumption was that Taylor suffered neglect and had been starved. The arraignment date was set for December 3rd, but was pushed back several times. February 12, 2020 passed by, and it would have been Taylor Rose's 6th birthday. Brianna continued to stay locked up in the county jail while the state attorney office built their case against the mom. In March of 2020, an arrest warrant was issued for aggravated child abuse, citing that Brianna Williams, quote, did willfully torture, maliciously punish, or willfully cage Taylor, end quote. The warrant also charged her with destroying or removing evidence and transporting human remains for the purpose of impairing an investigation. The DNA results from the apartment carpet and closet came back in July of 2020. Those results showed that the bloodstains belonged to Taylor Rose. The investigation unveiled a life of torture and punishment that the little girl endured at the hands of her very own mother. Taylor had last been in daycare on base on April 29, 2019. It was a week after the neighbor had found her wandering in the parking lot at the apartments. Brianna had told police that she had hired a babysitter from Craigslist during the early part of the investigation, but they were never able to corroborate that claim, so it seemed as though Brianna had never in fact hired a babysitter at all. Friends of Brianna told investigators that Brianna complained in text messages that Taylor was hiding food from her and that she would punish Taylor with a timeout when that happened. One coworker told investigators that in the 2 years she worked with Brianna, she never once heard Brianna mention that she had a daughter, to include even when they were at unit events that involved families. 2 more years would go by before Brianna Shante Williams would face a judge. With her public defense attorney in tow, she entered a guilty plea. Since the last time Brianna was seen in public, she had shaved off all her hair and was now wearing it closely cropped to her head. She showed zero emotion during the court appearance. The judge told her, quote, "This is an open plea to the court. If you go forward with your plea today, you will be able to call witnesses on your behalf if you choose to. I will be glad to hear from you if you choose to testify," end quote. Brianna acknowledged to the judge that she understood that she lost her right to a jury trial by pleading guilty and did so of her own volition. Despite the guilty plea, the assistant state attorney still had their time to speak. The prosecutor told the judge that the state was fully prepared to prove the original charges in trial. They had evidence that Brianna failed to find adequate childcare for Taylor and left her locked in the closet at home alone for extended periods with minimal food. Further, the prosecution stated that Brianna knew exactly what she was doing. Quote, "Obvious signs of neglect and abuse were observed, including soiled children's clothing, soiled carpeting, blood, and partially empty soup and fruit cans that had tiny holes cut in them," end quote. Continuing, the prosecutor said, quote, "Some of the recovered remains showed evidence of potential malnourishment, trauma, or disease, and a download of Brianna Williams' computer was conducted where searches were discovered for malnutrition," end quote. The house of horrors in the apartment were described in detail, including urine stains, dried fecal matter, and dead maggots on several items. Brianna's sentencing hearing began on September 15, 2022, with witnesses for the prosecution being brought to the stand, like the neighbor who found Taylor wandering in the parking lot at the apartment. They also heard from Brianna's coworkers and friends, and they also heard from Brianna's mother herself. The defense also presented their own witnesses that included a psychological expert that spent 2 hours on the stand. The expert testified that Brianna told him during their sessions that she came home and found Taylor dead with a bottle of Tylenol next to her. Then she claimed that she left the apartment for a couple of weeks. In a different session, she told a doctor that she couldn't remember the exact day that Taylor died, but she woke up one morning and found Taylor slumped over in the closet and that Taylor was cold to the touch. In yet a different version of the same story, Brianna told the doctor that Taylor died at the beginning of October, so she had been dead for a month when she buried her daughter's body in the woods in Alabama. She went back to look for Taylor's body and rebury her near Brianna's grandfather, but couldn't find Taylor's makeshift grave. The doctor testified that Brianna's plan was to find Taylor's body and then commit suicide. Apparently, Brianna did find Taylor's body, but she wasn't able to find her grandfather's grave, so that's when she placed Taylor's body in the shallow grave on the dirt road between Linden and Demopolis. Brianna thought that she would be able to find that location again, but she was wrong. Brianna had a written statement ready to read to the judge, but then she chickened out at the last minute, so her attorney read it for her. The judge asked Brianna why she wasn't reading it herself, and Brianna simply told the judge, "I'm nervous and scared." Brianna wrote in her statement, which her attorney read, quote, "I know what I did was wrong. I didn't immediately call the police, and when I did, I lied," end quote. After 3 days of testimony, the judge was ready to provide Brianna with her sentence. On September 20th, 2022, Brianna Williams learned her fate: life in prison. Brianna Shante Williams is currently serving her sentence at the Lowell Annex Women's Prison in Ocala, Florida. It is the same facility that Nicole Nachman, who I covered in a bonus episode 2 weeks ago, it's the same place where she is incarcerated. I wasn't able to find much information about Taylor Rose Williams' father, although when the news media did reach out to him at the time when she was a missing child, he simply said, "I don't have any information and I'm too busy to talk right now," or words to that effect. Taylor Rose Williams did not deserve the life she lived, nor the death she suffered. About a month after her remains were located, a marker was placed in the area where she had been found. The simple inscription reads, "In loving memory, safe in the arms of God. Taylor Rose Williams, February 12, 2014 through October 2019. Quote, blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God." End quote. Matthews 5:8. The marker is surrounded with stuffed animals, toys, flowers, and angels that people have left there for her. All right, True Crime Army, I know that this was a very difficult case to cover, but I know that various people had recommended it to me, so I did want to bring it back full circle here. Shout out to Myrtle again for researching this case and her son Shane for recommending it. The sources for this episode include a search warrant affidavit from Florida's 4th Judicial Circuit Court, and articles in the Florida Times-Union, some YouTube videos, First Coast News, Action News JAX, and the Florida Department of Corrections. All right, everyone, stay tuned. I will see you next week. Make sure that you're following me on Instagram at Military Murder Podcast. I have a lot of things going on in the next couple of weeks, which I'm probably going to be sharing with y'all over social media, not over the podcast. So be sure that you're following me there if you want some more life updates. All right, until next time, remember, you never really know what someone is capable of, so remain vigilant always. You have a fabulous week, and I'll keep digging to bring you another military murder story next week.
Mama's working on her podcast. I don't want to.